What if chasing top-line revenue is costing you everything that matters? In this episode, I'm sitting down with Aaron Rodgers, a seasoned contractor who's done the big revenue years and realized it wasn't worth the burnout. Now he's running a lean, profitable business that fuels his mission, supports his community, and keeps his team happy. Aaron is a numbers guy through and through, but he's also someone who's discovered that real success means margin on your P&L and in your life. From developing simple but powerful team metrics to using AI for smarter decision-making, this conversation is full of practical insight. But what truly makes Aaron stand out is how he uses his business as a vehicle for giving back. Through his nonprofit, Hammers for Heart, and a deep commitment to service, he's building something much bigger than just another roofing company. In today's episode, we'll cover how to grow without going broke, how to use your data without drowning in it, and how to keep your team and yourself aligned with what really matters. Let's get into it with Aaron Rodgers. Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Aline, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business. Aaron Rodgers with Pro Exteriors. How are you, man?
I'm wonderful, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well.
Great.
We were talking, I don't know if it was earlier this week or last week, and had some conversations. And man, you're a numbers guy,
right?
I like numbers. So we're going to definitely get into that here in a second. But I want to introduce you to the roofing success community. Give yourself a little intro. How did Pro Exteriors get started?
Okay, so 2005 or so, as I started my company, beginning of 2005. My father was a contractor, so I've kind of been in the industry since, old enough to basically follow him around and pick up nails. So 20 years in, just celebrated our 20th year. Started really kind of focusing on exteriors and roofing in around 2009. I've been fortunate to be able to grow my company to what I consider to be a pretty good size and have a pretty good team along the ride with me. So it's been fun.
That's you came up in the business and continued on. What was that? What was that journey? Did you ever have other aspirations as a kid, and then you just kind of fell back into the roofing, or contracting and roofing, or what was the draw for you?
I tell you, so growing up, I always loved cars, and I don't know if it was. I mean, I think every little boy grows up. All our favorite characters always had a really nice classic car, and so I always grew up really wanting to work on cars. I actually went to our local community college for automotive technology to basically learn how to fix cars, work on cars. And I believe it was the second semester we had a career mechanic come in. Guy owned his own shop, and I think he had 6 or 8 doors. And he started talking about the money aspect of things. And he really quickly, I think it came down to it. He said, if you own your own garage, he said, I've got 6 or 8 doors, I've got 6, 8 mechanics, and if you're looking to make more than $25 an hour, this isn't the career path for you. And that was the last day I went to that class, unfortunately. So switched my major to business. And I think once I started learning how businesses operate, that became more of the passion of being an entrepreneur. Working with my hands and numbers was always super, super easy for me. So my father being a contractor, I went and kind of started doing work with him part-time as I was taking business classes. And really, really quickly, while watching him interact with clients, realized that I could make a career path out of this. And I mean, in reality, I enjoyed it. Who doesn't like building stuff with their hands? And then, a year or so later, but a year and a half later, I made the decision to make this my long-term career. Started working with my father full-time. And then really quickly, I was like, you know what, I don't have the personality to be behind someone else. If I'm going to do this, I like the opportunity to kind of be the front person, to be the guy that's kind of, steering the ship. And in middle of 2004, I said, you know what, I'm going to start this right. got my business license, and January 1st of 2005 officially was in business for myself.
So how did Dad feel about that? How did Dad feel when it was like, all right, I'm gonna venture off on my own?
Yeah, so I think my father was always supportive. I think he he had been in business for, at that point, just over 20 years. I think he's still a contractor to this day. He's been in business for a very, very, very long time. So I think at that point, my father never really had aspirations to kind of go and be this huge, brand name. He always kind of just wanted to be somewhat smaller, him and another guy, him and maybe two other guys. He never really took on projects that he himself couldn't kind of handle. So, when I decided to go out and do my own thing, I think he was excited in his own way. I think maybe it was kind of like, okay, we're not going to do this together. So I think there were some emotions that maybe he didn't share with me, but ultimately I think he was supportive.
All right, Aaron. So, back to, we got the story, we understand, the journey, you grew up in this, right? And,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of lessons to be learned along the way.
For sure.
You'd mentioned to me in our conversation that you're a numbers guy. And I love that. And so let's start with this. What are the most important metrics that a roofing business owner should be tracking?
Ooh, okay. Most important metrics. So obviously everyone wants to look at profit. I think profit is important, but obviously there's other metrics that kind of go along with profit. So, what is it costing you to get the leads? What's your closing ratio for your sales guys? What things do you sell? What products do you sell? Services do you offer? Which of those has the best profit margin? Are there some things that, you offer just kind of an ancillary service, but in reality, they don't actually make any real money for you? Are there certain things that you're just not good at? So I think there are so many things that you need to track or should be tracking. It can get overwhelming really, really quickly.
Let's do it this way.
Okay.
We're going to start building metrics for a roofing company as it's getting started and growing. We'll frame it that way, right? Now man, it's day one. It's you. You're the salesperson. You're the job site supervisor. You're the office manager. You're everything.
Yeah.
At that level, what are you making sure that you're paying a lot of attention to? What are you tracking?
Your budget. I mean, I think when you're first starting off, I think having a proper plan and a true budget. I think when you first start out, having a budget, lets you know, are you tracking? Are you on pace? Are you hitting your targets? So I think paying attention to the metrics of your budget, this is my marketing spend. This is my equipment spend. This is my overhead spend. So I think those metrics are the first and foremost. Like, you have to have them set up before anything else. And then I think when you get going from there, then you can start kind of diving into the weeds a little bit more and start looking at closing ratios and net profit, per trade item, and, kind of more refined data, if you would. So,
yeah. How does, if someone doesn't know how to even put a budget together, where do they start with that? What are some of the...
Man, honestly, I always tell people, like, people are so scared to ask other business owners.
Yeah.
And, I think the first place you start with anything is go to a competitor. Go to somebody who's been doing this for a really long time and says, like, hey man, I'm gonna hang up my own shingle, and I want to make sure I do this right. What are the traps or the pitfalls that most entrepreneurs fall into? Contracting is a really weird space. It's a really fun business to be in, but most guys don't last, by 5 years. So, first thing I always tell people is don't be afraid to ask for help. Go to somebody that in your market that, has a good personality, and ask them out for coffee, ask them out for a beer, and just say, like, hey man, I'm trying to put this together. Where would you point me?
Yeah.
And then honestly, like, we have so much information at our fingertips these days. Everything you need to know for the most part can be found online. I mean, Jim, you're in marketing. I look at the AI stuff that's out right now.
Crazy.
I mean, if that had been here 20 years ago, I mean, I think all of us would be in a much different place as far as like our business growth and everything else, because half of that stuff is done for you. You type in a few prompts, refine it a little bit, and then it spits out this beautiful product from the backside. I mean, a lot of that stuff, it's not that hard. You go to ChatGPT and type in like, hey, I'm going to start a roofing contractor business. Can you give me a very basic kind of line item budget put together? And then you have to go and fill in the more refined details to get the real numbers on the backside. But so much information is available to you.
It can be very easy nowadays, right? There's really no excuse for any of this. And I love that the ChatGPT reference. I had my friend Jonathan Mass on the podcast some months back, last year actually, and he's an AI prompting expert, and has a prompting framework. And so just go in and tell it what you want it to be. You are the chief financial officer of a large roofing company. I'm a startup looking to develop a budget. Please ask me any, help me. Can you help me with this? Please ask me any clarifying questions. And that please ask me any clarifying questions at the end, you start to have that conversation with it. And then it'll ask you, well, what's your goal for the year? What's your, what do you do? And you just start answering the questions, and you're right, man. It's just going to spit it right out. And
it's a very beautiful thing when used properly.
Yeah. And so nowadays the answer to how do I get started is ChatGPT. Claude, Gemini,
ChatGPT, I mean, all of these AI tools are they're so complex and so easy to use at the same time, and they can be used for almost anything. You're struggling to have a hard conversation with somebody, whether it be an employee, whether it be a friend, a loved one, whomever. You go and you type in a few bits of information. What's a delicate way to approach this conversation? And it spits out some prompts where you're like, all right, so maybe it's not going to be as difficult as I thought it would be. So you can use that stuff for anything in life and reality.
Anything.
So.
Yeah. Check our sponsor, Power Up Agents AI. Great in terms of voice AI, something that you guys should check out, because that's a whole nother level to this stuff. But now as you're moving through, you're starting to hire people. When you start getting those first hires, man, I think that I'm a big fan of EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system, developing key metrics for each employee, each person in each seat, and then them owning those metrics. And so what types of things do you look for in terms of metrics around your team when you start to hire that first salesperson? Maybe you start to hire maybe a job site supervisor or a production manager.
So I measure, my first measurement is always kind of like company culture. Does that person kind of add into our culture, and does it kind of, not only does it add to it, but does it actually mesh kind of in with that company culture? That's usually the first thing, because man, you can hire one bad employee and it ruins the company culture completely, and then everybody's productivity goes down. People aren't as happy to come to work. So that's always first and fourth thing, hire for personality. But so for individual metrics, like salespeople are always the easiest metrics to come up with, right? Because it's a very tangible thing. Like, you get 3 or 4 things. Like, I need you to sell X amount. I need you to close at X amount. And I need your margin to be at X amount. So like, you give 3 real simple things, and then you can refine it from there. Like, in our area, we don't get a lot of snow, but we have slight seasons. We live in a real big, like, second home market. So in the summertime, you may not be doing these big complex remodels in kind of the beach area that we live in. So you kind of have to take that sales data and kind of skew it. Like, January may not be a big ticket month, and same way with February, as kind of things are warming up a little bit. So, and then each subsequent employee past that is going to have their own set of metrics, right? Job superintendents, what are we looking at as far as like, our subcontractors happy? Are our employees happy? What kind of material loss are we doing? Are we staying on budget with our materials? Are we staying on time, on schedule? And that's important for a couple of different reasons, right? You only assumed you were going to be there for 7 days and you end up being there for 10. Not only is it additional labor costs, but you also have lost revenue on those days from, the job you were hoping to schedule on those days. Client happiness is always something we talk about a lot. We want to make sure our clients are just ridiculously happy with our projects. And then, when it comes to like our repair tech guys, we want to make sure that their output is, we have a certain number. We want your output to be this gross revenue number. We start talking about reviews as you kind of get along the path in business. You want to talk about, how many people can get reviews and how many reviews can we get each month. There's a lot of metrics that you can put in place. Tracking them is the harder part.
Yeah.
You could put as many metrics in place as you want. And obviously most of us in this business use CRMs, and they'll track a lot of it for you, but somebody still has to look at that data and then go from there. So, but yeah.
Who looks at the data? How do you determine who looks at what data and who's responsible for the outcome of that specific, the data that you're measuring for that specific outcome?
So we run our business on like basically 4.5 departments. I won't call it a 4 or 5 departments because we run operations and production kind of as one big department. But each department has kind of their own key person, and each one of them is kind of managed to oversee certain metrics for their department. I won't say that we're as consistent as we need to be as far as like our weekly meetings with each department head to kind of go over those metrics with myself. I'm probably the worst person ever to work for when it comes to like giving somebody else a task and then allowing them to complete it. I'm not a micromanager, but I have this like do it now mentality where I don't always have the patience to be like, hey, this is your task. You have 2 weeks to get it done, because by the end of that week, like sometimes I just want to get it out of my head essentially. So, I don't always allow everybody to bring metrics to me. I more so have the ability where I work nonstop kind of deal. And yeah, I can separate, if I have 3 minutes of a commercial break while I'm watching a show or something with my kids, I'll jump on my phone real quick and check a metric and, check that box off.
Make sure it's checked off. Yeah.
ADHD is a curse and a superpower at the same time. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah. I think that may be a common trait of roofing business owners, right? Like,
isn't it weird? Yeah, it's weird how that works.
On the club, right? Like, or business owners in general, really.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned you had years where revenue didn't grow, but profit did.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay. I think when we talked before, we talked a little bit about how when you first start your business. You're growing and you're happy to kind of see revenue grow. And I think a lot of people get tricked into the idea that if gross revenue grows, that obviously you're more successful. And that's not always the case. We've had years where we've added $1 million in gross revenue, but only added 3% to our net profit. It doesn't matter how many millions of dollars in business you do if your net profit's not growing along with that. It's all for nothing. We used to do some new construction stuff, and we realized really quickly the saying in this business is 90% of your headaches come for 10% of your clients. So that was it, man. We brought on like 1 year we went out there and we had a couple of good sized projects, and we brought in I want to say $1.7 million in new business that year from a couple of projects. And at the end of the year, I'm going, where's the money? Didn't we just do $1.7 million in new revenue? Like, where did that money come from? Or where did that go? So I think that's the more important metric is always net profit. Yeah. You can grow $1 million year over year over year. If your net profit isn't kind of growing in that same pace, then you're working for nothing. And none of us got in this business to work for free. So don't get stuck in that mindset. Like, when I reach $5 million, I'm successful. When I reach $10 million, I'm successful. Let's look at net profit. When I reach $2 million in net profit, I'm successful, because that's the number that's more important. Because, it may not take as many millions in gross revenue to hit that net profit number as it does to do the other thing. So
exactly. Yeah. It's a funny thing. I don't know, man. It's just human psychology. I think sometimes, right? We're just chasing this, like, this big number, and
Yeah.
not as many people share their net profit, maybe, right? So
Yeah.
maybe that's what
Yeah.
it is, that we don't have those numbers, in front of us as often. It's
Yeah.
much easier to say, oh, we did 18 million this year, we did 6 million this year, we did 50 million this year, right? Like,
Yeah.
and no one really, there's not a lot of sharing around the net profit numbers. And so,
Yeah.
maybe that's a reason. But if you were to, like, let's give a range, like, because you've had the years with less profit and more profit.
Mm-hmm.
If you said, on the low end, this is, man, I don't want to drop below this, but
Yeah.
boy, when we're fully optimized, I want to be
Yeah.
around this.
Yeah. So for us, I would say our most profitable year was like in the $4 million range. I think that the $1 to $3 million is a really easy obtainable number to hit 3 million. I think the run from say 3 to 5 million or 3 to 7 million is a lot harder climb than I think most people realize. Going from 3 to 5 is a really it requires a lot more equipment, more trucks, more people. More people requires more management. More management is more overhead. Now you need managers for managers. So I think that there's ways to scale up, to 10 million, 20 million and on. But I think our best years where not only was profit good, but our team was happiest, that everybody had a personal life and everybody enjoyed coming to work. And it wasn't like, oh God, here comes Monday, was that sweet spot, man. That, like, $4 million, we've broke $5 million and it was okay. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't great. Worst year we ever had was when we had our best gross revenue and everybody at the end of the year was exhausted. Everybody was not happy. And I think we all came together and we're like, we don't really want to do that again. So I have opportunities that I could take. I have ways that I could kind of scale up to be that $10 million contractor. I'm good, man.
Yeah.
I'm happy where we are. I got 4 sons and a wife at home. I am perfectly content.
That's right. It's the more important things in life, but also that you made a good point there, and that's the team and the burnout that can come, the employee turnover, it gets to a point where they don't want to come to work today because they know that it's just, there's something, it's overwhelming, right?
Yep.
How did how have you balanced that now that you've gone through those lessons, right? Is it just, are you just looking at, hey, we stick in this range of revenue and we don't feel it anymore, or how are you managing that?
So, I mean, every year, I'll put a number in front of myself and I'll say, like, if I hit this, then I'm good to go. Perfectly content. I prefer to be happy and content and have a nice, easy, manageable company with employees that are super happy versus like setting a goal in front of myself that I know it's going to kind of tax everyone. Money is a great thing to have, but it's not the most important thing to have. Our company has made kind of a larger push to be kind of a larger name in our community, not for our size, but as far as like what we do to give back. Our community involvement is like built into our core values. So I found a nice happy balance of, the time that I can give outside of my company, the time that my company itself can give back to, things in my community. I strive more so to make sure that we are at a place where we can always do that stuff versus like adding all the pressure of trying to grow to a certain percentage point every single year. So as long as I can, we go into every year with like, so like going into last year, we had a nice little partnership with Habitat for Humanity. We had a nice little partnership with a local kids camp here. And we had kind of some ideas as far as like what we wanted to give back. So we went into this year, basically tripling. If we put it into like a dollar amount, where we want to basically triple what we were able to give back to the community going into this year. So my goal is more so wrapped up around that. I know roughly what I have to grow in order to like maintain that level of giving. So I'd rather go at it like that. It's not so much the profit for me, as it's more so like, how can I use this business as kind of like a tool or a vessel to kind of do more kingdom work, service work, whatever you want to call it.
Before we carry on with the episode, let's give a shout out to one of our sponsors. I talk to contractors every day that feel stuck. Not because they're not working hard, but because they're missing the structure to growth without chaos. Or their culture's falling apart because their team's unclear, unaligned, or just burned out. And when change hits, they're reacting instead of leading because time and priorities aren't under their control. Day 41 Thrive helps to fix that with proven strategies for growth, culture, and leadership that actually work. Ready to thrive beyond the storm? Visit the link in the description or visit the Roofing Success Podcast website on the sponsors page to start your journey today. I think maybe this is something to discuss then, because I think when we get started, it's hard. The why is to make a living.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was how can I support my family without, struggling or, yeah. So,
yeah, like and that's really the initial why. When did that why change for you? What changed? And then how did you determine this is the new thing? This is the new thing I want to focus on.
Yeah. So, so I'll say about maybe 6-7 years ago, maybe as far as 8 years ago. I don't know. COVID time is kind of like that 4-year span.
That's right. Yeah.
Nobody really knows when all that stuff happened. So we'll say 7-8 years ago, I started a charity called Hammers for Heart. It's a 501c3 charity that we started to kind of be able to do like some smaller community stuff. Building ramps for handicapped people. Senior citizens, things like that, doing small home repairs, yard cleanups, kind of whatever projects came our way. We were already doing that. We decided to start the 501c3 to kind of make it a little bit more official and to kind of put a name over it. So, if other businesses wanted to get involved, it wasn't like, hey, give me money so we can do this thing. So we started that, and, we did a handful of projects every year. And then COVID came and, everything kind of got weird and it kind of sat on the back burner. And then so the real big push is I found faith a little less than 3 years ago. And in the process of finding my faith, I realized that for so many years I chased money. And, like a lot of us, if I just get to this amount of money, that's my happiness. The weird thing is you never ever hit that goal, no matter what the number is. The first time you hit it, the day that the first time I ever hit that metric where I was like, that amount of money, that's what I wanted, that's what I have, was the saddest day for me because I just moved the goal line. And, once you hit it the first time, it makes it easier to hit it the second time, and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and you never end up being satisfied with it. Yeah. So I found my faith, and I realized that I wanted to do more kingdom work, and I realized that the company that I had built is kind of this ginormous tool that I could use to just kind of do more kingdom work. I hired somebody that was actually at the time he was the worship leader at my church. He was making a move in his career, and I asked him if he wanted to do some contract work. He ended up coming on with me full time. So that was kind of a big deal. To have somebody that worked in ministry to come on board. And in the process of like me and him kind of having more and more conversations, we made it a much larger conversation. As far as in the actual office. I told him that like, this is what like feeds my soul. This is what makes me super, super happy. This is the avenue I want to approach. Like, everything else that we do just becomes like the thing that feeds this. The most important part of all of this, our company just feeds that. So we kind of did some smaller things in the beginning of him coming on board with us. One of the things was, we put out there in our marketing, we started a thing called the Community Pro Pledge, to let people know that like we're here for our community. We'll do these projects. We've done 2 food drives now where we've raised a very considerable amount of food for 2 of our local food pantries. We did like an Adopt a Highway here locally, which we just got done doing our quarterly cleanup. The local camp here, we were able to basically tear down a building and rebuild their canteen to serve the kids in the summertime. And then last year we did 7 Habitat for Humanity brews. So that whole conversation just kept evolving. And every time we did more service work, it made me happier and happier and happier. I've had more business owners in our area reach out to say, man, hey, love what you're doing. Like, let me know how I can get involved. So like that, in my personal opinion, is a larger kind of barometer to success than anything else.
Yeah.
When you can inspire other people to kind of do, more things that, serve others versus themselves. I think our world would be a better place if everybody just served others more than themselves. So.
Using, I think there's another part to that I think I want to point out is that you're also using your gifts in business, right? That you're using your talents to then be able to, right? Like I think that's I think it could go. Some people want to help too much, and maybe they're not using their gifts properly, right? So
agreed.
How has it been? Okay, for a contractor that's thinking about going down this route also, right? I've had a couple on the podcast that have nonprofits also and have a strong mission in the way that they serve the community and serve causes in their businesses.
Yeah.
And what were some of the things in getting that type of structure set up? Like how does someone go about starting a 401c3 and making that an actual, this is official, right? Someone can write a check, donate their time, donate their services and get that tax write-off. But also, what was that process like? Because that's a whole process within itself.
Yeah, if being completely honest with you, I was very fortunate to have somebody within the company that kind of took that burden onto themselves.
That's right. There you go.
Starting the 501c isn't like a terribly, terribly involved process. It's more of a hurry up and wait type deal. You fill out the paperwork, you kind of put a name behind the whole thing, you kind of put a mission, you put officers in place, and then you wait for the IRS to tell you, like, yeah, you're good, you got your nonprofit status. The harder part of that is funding is always an issue. Nobody, especially if you're kind of a no-name 501, like nobody really want to give you money for these projects. So you're going to self-fund a lot of it. But if you're going to go through the process to do it all and you're going to make it like kind of a bigger thing for yourself and your company, just stick with it. Over time, you'll have more and more people that'll kind of buy into what you're doing. Always be very, very verbal about it. Don't be afraid to talk about it. It's not a secret. Not everybody's going to believe in what you do. You don't need everybody to buy in. You just need people to listen and understand that, like, hey, you're open for these things. And then honestly, like sometimes you just have to learn how to say no. There are people out there that are in desperate need of the services that you can provide for them.
It's unfortunate.
And there are people out there, and then there are the other side of that where there's people out there that look at you and go, hey, this guy's doing stuff for free.
Yeah.
So you have to come up with a vetting process to take a project and meet with the people, figure out if they're legitimately in need. We've been fortunate, to my knowledge, we've never had anybody take us for anything. But yeah, if you want to have a conversation, just start asking around. There's so many resources. Don't be secretive about it. If you want to do it, just start asking around. There's so many people out there that have done it or are willing to help you do it.
And small things too is being involved with your local with local charities in your area. You don't have to start your own, right? Habitat's a great one that I know a lot of contractors, do a lot of service and Habitat for Humanity and things like that. So, starting there is a great place too, right? Getting, just getting something going. And then another part of it becomes the team aspect. Charles Antis and Tamara Chase and some people that I've had on the show that also are very philanthropic in their roofing businesses. It becomes a culture thing in their business. It becomes part of the team. There's so many aspects to it when you bring it in, and you'll get that feedback from your team that this is, we really enjoy this. Like, we'll go out and do this with you. We're in with you. How is that shift happen within your team? Are they like, do they have a different motivation?
So I think that some people share the same motivation that I do. I think there's other people that may not have the same heart behind it, but I think ultimately they're proud to be a part of the things that we do. I'll say that when we schedule something and we say, hey, we've got this thing, I don't ever get anybody that was like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And when we all come together, when the entire team is together doing these things, we're laughing and carrying on the entire day. There's nobody that's moping around going, I can't believe we're here. There's times where I ask people to donate their time. And then there's times where we do these projects like during normal business hours where everybody's collecting a check. So when I have the opportunity to do something where people can donate their time, I don't really have an issue with people saying like, no, I'm not available that day. I have a handful of people in there who have, several kids and families and busy extracurricular activities with coaching and everything else. And,
that's right.
When they say like, hey, I wish I could be there, but I've got, other things I have to do that day. And I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
So they can be involved if they want to. They can be not involved if they don't want to. I don't hold that against them. This is my thing. I'm fortunate to be in the position that I am. And I'd love to have them with me, but if not, like, it's still going to charge forward. So
I recently had a gentleman on the podcast, Jonathan Cronsten, Jake Cron. He wrote a book called The $1 Billion Blueprint, $1 billion bullseye, not $1 billion blueprint, $1 billion bullseye. Okay. And we talked a little bit about, which was very enlightening in my conversation with him, was an internal mission and an external mission of the company.
Yeah.
You can't expect your team to buy into your internal mission and have the same enthusiasm about it, right? Like what you can hope for is that they buy into the external mission of the company, the way that you serve your customers and take care of your customers, right?
Exactly.
And so, with that balance and that awareness, it's like, hey, it's okay. Right. Like, it's okay. Hey, your kid's got something going on. I'm not mad that you can't come and, work with us on this, project or whatever.
Yeah. So, that's a great way to frame that. The internal and the external. Yeah.
That's what I thought, man.
Yeah, I like that.
That was an awesome one. That was, that was very impactful. Like that when he said that. So now you've kind of created some other community involvement. You just continue along these lines of community involvement. You started a podcast.
Yeah.
The You Ask the Pros Answer podcast. So everyone check that out. You Ask the Pros Answer. So we'll get you some listeners over there, and let's describe kind of the concept behind it, how you got that started.
Yeah. So Cole, like I said, Cole was a guy that was in the ministry at my church that came on board with us a little over a year ago. We wanted to kind of increase, he's our marketing manager. So we wanted to kind of increase our marketing more locally. And podcast is one of those things. I listen to a ton of podcasts. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I read a lot of books. So like I'm a nerd when it comes to this business. Most of the people that know me know that like I'm the guy that can quote specs from certain materials or install guidelines. So I'm a wealth of information and sometimes entirely too much information. So I was like, how can we harness that, put that out into ether and let people know how big of a nerd I am? So we started the podcast. Initially, it was kind of more like, let's talk about the products. Let's talk about the right things and the wrong things with installations, the common things that we deal with. What should you be doing as a homeowner, how to hire somebody, how to vet somebody. It originally started like that. Eventually your content gets kind of stale because it's like, all right, here's another 20, 30-minute podcast of this guy telling me how everybody else is wrong. He's right. So then it was like, all right, so who else can we bring on? Let's bring in people that are kind of like contractor adjacent. So we've had a couple of different real estate agents on. One of our most recent podcasts that just dropped was a guy down in Norfolk, Virginia that has a landscaping company. He just started a 501c3 called Relief Cut. He's going to be doing like some kind of property cleanups. So we're looking at not only kind of helping him kind of boost that thing, but we're in the beginning talks of potentially finding a project where my team can go down and meet him and his team, and we can kind of do a project hands-on together, which I'm looking forward to. I hope that all happens. But yeah, so it's kind of evolved, and I'm excited to see. When we originally started and we called You Ask, the Pros Answer. We're pro exteriors. Yes, we're professionals. We're the pros in our industry, but I think this podcast is going to be more so like the pros in every industry. So I think it's going to expand into everything. Other trades businesses, other service businesses, kind of wherever we can get somebody that we feel is like, somebody who has the right qualifications, has been in business for a while, who has a good story. And, there's like you search out people that fit that mold. We're going to be doing kind of the same thing. So,
yeah. How's it been for you? What's been the journey like? What were some of those first episodes? Was it like, oh man, I don't want to be on camera? Were you like, put me on camera, let's go? Where were you on all that?
So I hate being on camera. I think most of the people here will realize I'm like, I can talk to anybody. I can cut it up. I can BS with the best of them. I can do it face to face all day long. You turn a camera on. It's probably the only time you ever see me really be bashful. So I've gotten used to it, and I've kind of learned the tricks of like how to actually look at the camera like I'm doing right now. How to, pretend like the monitor's, not in front of you. How to, those little tricks that aren't really natural in the beginning. I've learned how to sit still in my chair and not do this. In the beginning, I hated it because all I look at is, of course, like everybody, I look at the screen and I look at every imperfection I can find on my face. So as it's going along, you don't really pay attention to it anymore. They get super, super easy after you get so many under your belt. It used to take a little while to kind of put the podcast together without kind of glitching or losing your train of thought. And Cole having to pretty much edit everything down to the finished product. Now there's been a couple of times where we go in and we knock out a 15, 20-minute podcast session with no issues whatsoever, hardly any editing needed to be done. So it's been fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's something I really, really enjoy doing. So
yeah, those conversations are fun, man. And there's something about putting yourself on camera. It happens. I have 10-year-old twin boys, and my son James, will record me doing this, and then he'll watch it and he's like, that's not what I sound like. I'm out of here. Like, no, that's not it. That's not me. Don't put that, So it's
I'm aware of that.
What it is. I remember when I switched to a 4K camera, I was like, whoa, man, I got some gray in the beard there. Like,
oh yeah. Yeah, when my hair gets a little longer, my grays have come in pretty solid on the side here, so I keep it a little shorter than I used to.
Yeah, but we just do it, man, and it's how has the response been? What things came from it that you never thought would have come from it?
Yeah, so I didn't really know what to expect. You put a lot of effort into a lot of marketing, and you don't really know whether or not you're really going to get anything out of it. I don't know what expectations I had going into it, as far as like, is this going to be is this going to be for leads? Is this going to be for branding? Is it going to be just purely to get our message out there? So it's been interesting to meet with clients for the first time and have them being like, oh, I actually watch your podcast. Or, I do a lot of stuff with our local chamber of commerce and, being at an event and being like, oh, actually, I've seen your podcast. And it's interesting.
It's a weird feeling.
It's a weird feeling. And the first thing that comes to my mind is like, oh, I wonder which episode they saw. You hope it's one of the better ones, but, it is what it is. Got to take the good recordings and the bad recordings. They're all the same. So
that's right.
But yeah, so it's been interesting to see people actually watching it. I've had a couple of friends that, I've been friends with them for 20 plus years and don't really see them anymore. And to say like, hey man, I just want to let you know, I just saw you, you just popped up on Facebook or Instagram or something. He's like, I feel like every time I log on, you're on there again. So I was like, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll take that. So yeah, it's fun.
Amazing. It's amazing what putting out content does. Like you don't know who sees it. And really it's the people that aren't commenting, they're not liking, but they see it.
Yeah.
People see it. And
I think the other point is like, it's almost freeing, as a founding business owner, you are the face of the company. And then as kind of like your company grows, depending on how you choose to run your business, you could still be the face of the company. I choose to kind of like lead from everybody. And if I have the opportunity for somebody else to kind of be the point person, I'd rather somebody else be the point person. So it's been fun to kind of see, like people recognize the company without knowing it's me. And knowing who our company is without realizing like I'm the owner of that company. So that's kind of cool to have people buy into what our company mission is and our core values, to be able to hear people talk about it in a way that's like not like, oh, do you know that guy from Pro Exteriors? So people talking about the company in such a positive way I think has been one of the results I didn't necessarily kind of understand going into it. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's a good one. I know you're enjoying the episode, but let's give a shout out to another one of our sponsors. As a roofing marketing agency owner and coach, I've seen it all. Great marketing wasted because no one follows up fast enough. That's why I built Power Up Agents, not just a receptionist. Our AI handles the entire customer journey, from answering the first call to booking the job to post-job surveys and reviews. 24/7, inbound, outbound, even multilingual. If you want leads followed up instantly and customers nurtured automatically, visit the link in the description or visit the sponsors page on the Roofing Success Podcast website. Your full AI team is ready. You're out in the Delaware, Maryland area. I don't think you're too far from DC, right? Like we're
a little over 2 hours. Yeah,
a little over 2 hours. So maybe you don't have as many of the DC area employees working out in your area, but we're heading into some job cuts recently, and the economy has had its fluctuations and things like that.
Yeah.
You started in 2009.
Yeah, so we started in 2005, and we kind of like organically. Yeah. So married the love of my life in 2006. Had our first child in 2007. I was still a kid when I had my first kid. As my company kind of grew and I had my first child, I really wanted to have my second child. Told my wife I'm ready for my second. She goes, well, we can have a second child if I get to become stay at home. And I'm like, of course, no brainer. Again, I didn't know we were going to have a mortgage crisis. I didn't know the economy was going to tank and people were going to lose their homes left and right. And I hadn't been through anything like that before as a business owner. I didn't know what that meant for me. I think, the saving grace was I was still a smaller company. I didn't have a lot to lose. I didn't have a lot of crazy overhead. So I was fortunate to kind of be able to grow through the mortgage crisis and the recession. Had my second kid in 2009. Company continued to grow. Third kid in 2012. And it's been we'll say for the most part, smooth sailing. You know, I always tell other business owners when I get the opportunity to talk to them, I was like, I'm a wealth of information because I've made every possible mistake you can make.
That's right.
You know, I've made mistakes that have cost my company a lot of money. I've been burned by other companies that have cost our company a lot of money. So I'll tell you all the things not to do. And then all you have to do is write them down and then just not do those things. But yeah, so having a company that was kind of starting to get some momentum going in a down economy, it teaches you how to be a little bit kind of more scrappy with your money. Teaches you how to market when marketing dollars aren't quite as easy to obtain. When you have to be a little bit more strategic about your bidding to make sure that you keep your pipeline full. So there are a lot of great lessons to be learned in a down economy. But those lessons need to be kind of applied when things are good too. It's really easy to have a great year. I mean, I don't know a single contractor who didn't have just a banger year during COVID. Money was cheap. Everybody was throwing it around like it wasn't ever going to go anywhere. A lot of people that were in the labor force started their own companies. A lot of those guys have realized that, jobs are a little harder to get now, and they filtered back into the labor pool again. But yeah, so I've been around for a couple of down ticks. I've been around for some upticks. Then you start paying attention to things like election cycles, and you realize that, every time you have an election cycle, it could be, it's 50-50 as to whether or not that's going to have kind of an extreme effect on our industry or other industries.
Yeah.
So you just pay attention to that, man. You track your numbers and you realize like, hey, we had an off month, an off quarter. Why is that? And usually you can pretty much figure out where that's coming from. So yeah, numbers are important.
That's it. And it's, I like, you said being lean, right? Like,
yep.
If you don't realize that these are the good times.
Yeah.
And you are budgeting as if these are the good times or that these are normal times, you will soon find out that they are not normal times.
Agreed.
This thing ebbs and flows. And so,
when you have your first $1 million year, it doesn't mean you owe yourself a F-250 King Ranch.
That's right. Too many do, many do. You mentioned if you just did all the stuff that you said was a mistake or that you didn't do right, that you would that would be a good start, right? We'll call it a good start, right? There's just do that. Just don't make the mistakes I did.
Yep.
Let's end it this way. I usually ask in a different way, but let's say, what are the 3 to 5 mistakes that you do not want to make in your roofing business?
All right. So first and foremost, stick to what you're good at. That would probably be my number one thing. If you have a client that wants you to do your roof, but they also want you to redo their kitchen or they want you to redo their driveway, learn to say no. Stick to what you're good at. That's where your money is. That's what you're really good at. That's where you can keep your brand kind of in place. Learn to track your numbers. Be aggressive with tracking your numbers because you'd be surprised how good you'd be going with a lot of money in the bank. And then all of a sudden you turn around and it's like, where's all my money? Be aggressive with going after money owed. Learn the red flags of when somebody's going to drag paying their bill. Learn the proper way, and because every state kind of has different laws, but learn how to lead somebody's property. Learn what your timeline is, and be aggressive with sending out your red letters and going after your money because it can add up real quick. We've been in a couple of different times in the last, say, 10 years where we've had hundreds of thousands of dollars owed to us, and it sucks. It's not a fun feeling. But if you wait too long, you're never going to see that money. Never. So you'll have no real legal recourse. And so be aggressive with making sure you're watching those numbers. Hire for personality and teach skills. I've hired a lot of people that were great craftsmen, very good at what they do, but their personality sucked and they failed quickly. Yeah. So everybody has their own version of like hire slow, fire fast. I hire fast and fire fast. To me, like I don't take anything personal. It's just business for me. I hire you because I like you and I think I might see something in you. And if you don't work, I don't care if you've worked here for 2 weeks. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. I don't need to prolong this. And then honestly, don't let your business become your everything. You know, it's very easy, especially in the first handful of years of you starting your business. You have this goal of like, I want to be this, and you're putting every hour that you can into something. And you know, it can affect relationships, friendships. You know, I know there's times where, you know, I have 4 sons. Like I said, my wife stays home, and there's times where I'm an early riser. So I'll wake up at 4:00 in the morning, get on my laptop, work until I can, you know, realistically get ready without waking her up. I'm out the door. I start doing my thing, and I'll work till 5, 6 o'clock. I'll go home. I'll eat dinner. When everything's all said and done, kids are content, and I'm back on my laptop doing work again. That's not really a life. You know, nowadays people respect like, he's a grinder, he's a hustler. It's great. You can do all that stuff, or hire somebody to do it for you. It doesn't always have to be you. You don't have to be the guy. You know, build a life and then let the business kind of afford that life. But yeah. And then if you're not having fun, just don't do it anymore. So awesome. Nothing's worth doing if you're not having fun.
That's awesome, man. Aaron, thanks for your time. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Roofing Success Podcast. For more valuable content, visit roofingsuccesspodcast.com. While there, check out our sponsors for exclusive offers, shop for merchandise, and sign up for our newsletter for industry updates and tips. Also, join the Roofing Success Facebook group to connect with other professionals and stay updated on the latest trends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Your support helps us continue to bring you top industry insights. The website link is in the description. Thanks for listening.